What's up, fight fans? This is Kurt DeVille with Counterpunch Boxing News, and I have some new news concerning Bob Arum. Bob Arum has been on the prowl lately, and he hasn't let up now. He goes after Anthony Joshua. He states, Arum tells Anthony Joshua to leave the zone for ESPN. Now, you know, Arum feels that Anthony Joshua is doing himself a disservice by fighting on the zone. He says Joshua is completely isolated because he has rolled into the zone arrangement. And this frankly inhibits his ability to make major fights and his ability to become a factor. He is fighting in the U.S. against Miller, but it's on the zone. Nobody has the zone, Arum said to the World Boxing News regarding Joshua's situation. He also goes on to say, I think Joshua has been used. Joshua and his people should wake up and really join the rest of the world. He should finish up his contract with Hearn and join us. Arum said to the champion's relationship with promoter Eddie Hearn. He also he said, it makes no sense to continue placing his fights on the zone. It makes no sense to deprive him of pay-per-view. If he fights in the UK, he can't turn that into pay-per-view dollars in the United States because there is a difference in time. Okay, let's start from the beginning. He tells him to leave the zone. He feels that he's being used and he basically was rolled into the zone arrangement. Well, that's partially true, but what happened with the zone, it's one of those models that, you remember, AJ really wasn't an American fighter. He wasn't fighting in America. You know, but the fight was still aired on the zone, but it was also on pay-per-view in the UK. So regardless if it's on the zone, Sky Sports is still going to air it in the UK. So the question is, will Jarrell Miller versus Anthony Joshua be exclusively on the zone? And I believe Sky Sports will still have their feed for pay-per-view in the UK. You know, and that doesn't really bother the Brits any, because it's like, okay, it's only $25, something like that. So they can watch that over there, where we have the opportunity to watch it over here for $9 a month. Or if you got the $99 or the $100 package, it's a little less than that. So, you know, if you just recently signed up due to their increase or their change in rate. Okay, so, and really the rate hasn't changed on the zone. It's just changed on the way that you can purchase it. You can buy it for $19.99 if you want to be a cheapskate, but being a cheapskate isn't really always that economically smart. You know, being a cheapskate with $19.99 a month versus $100 a year, that's a really big difference in price. So, you know, but back to Bob, man. Bob says that no one has the zone. Well, I guess I'm no one, and a lot of other people. I don't think their subscribers are where they want to be, but I don't think that's the case. And it's kind of hard to believe or to listen to Bob, because Bob is the CEO of Top Rank, which is associated with ESPN right now. They have a huge thing. He has just as much pull at ESPN than Al Heyman does with Showtime and Fox. So imagine if Al Heyman said the same thing to about Anthony Joshua, right? And he said, why don't you come to Showtime? You're doing yourself a disservice fighting on a platform. I mean, yeah, that's what he's supposed to say. Because it's easier to bring a fighter in on, you know, to another network to get those fights than to deal or collaborate with another network. That's not cool. It's not the best thing to do. You know, so if they can get Anthony Joshua, so you have Joshua on Tyson Fury, that would be big. And you remember White is still pondering on the idea of going with ESPN. So if ESPN could land Anthony Joshua, that would be huge for ESPN. It would suck for the zone, but they still have Golovkin because they just signed Golovkin. Then they have Canelo. which is either the first or second highest paid fighter around. So he is the market. He's holding another piece of the boxing reputation on his back, right? So it would be a big hit still, and for the heavyweight division on Dazn. But if he did go to ESPN, that's another question. All this talk, we're saying Joshua is completely isolated because he's on Dazn, and no one has Dazn. But Bob, you're not making it sound enticing. You know what I mean? Tempt someone at least. Do what Dazn did with Deontay Wilder. Offer something that he can't refuse, because he's not even talking about money. Do you think that Anthony Joshua is just with Dazn for his health? You know what I'm saying? He's not there for his health. He's there because he's getting paid, right? And Joshua's one of those guys that don't want to talk about money. You know why? Because he's fucking making it. That's why. He's making that money. He's making that cash. So yeah, he'll fight on Dazn. Imagine telling Canelo Alvarez that, hey, Canelo, I think you're doing yourself a disservice for fighting on Dazn. He's going to do this to you. You know what I mean? That's what he's going to do. Mira. See? Because it's like Dazn is upfront money. Now the pay-per-view, sure, that's like the older model, or that's the standard current once leading model. But things are changing, Bob Arum, he has ESPN and he has ESPN Plus, but ESPN Plus is just a service of ESPN. It's not the major way they push their content, right? So they still have a pay-per-view strategy. So they're trying to get, I could see it with my eyes closed. They're trying to get Anthony Joshua over there for Tyson Fury. So they have two of those heavyweights and they fight 2 or 3 times or whatever. They can make some money. Then at that time, there would be no reason they would need Deontay Wilder at all. So I see what Bob Arum's trying to do. Because, I didn't really cover this because, it was just he said, she said. But Bob Arum had went after Eddie Hearn, and said that he has no clue of what he's doing. And, and John Skipper's losing credibility and all this, all this stuff. But, Bob, this is another tactic from Bob trying to plant that seed at least, to Anthony Joshua, saying, hey, Anthony Joshua, if you leave there, you got a home over here. You know what I'm saying? So, that's one of these things that Bob's doing. And I think the only good point that he has, kind of, is if he's going to be an American star to fight in the UK, the pay-per-view dollars, because of the time difference, people over here are not going to wait that long. They're not, what is it? They're not going to really be available at that time, to 3, 4 in the afternoon, a lot of times. So that will cut that pay-per-view market in half over here, not in the UK. So if he does fight or decides to fight in the UK, and with the pay-per-view, he can't really maximize the dollars over here. But that's just one aspect, because Anthony Joshua was really never marketed to be an American star until now. So, that comes into play now. But Dazn, of course, if they're taking care of him, what does he have to bargain with Anthony Joshua, trying to get him to come to ESPN? It's easy to say, you're getting screwed, come over here. But if you're not putting up anything, you're not, you're not enticing anyone, what difference, how are you helping? You're just talking. So that's all I see is talk coming from your standpoint, because you are a promoter and you're trying to get a fighter from another promoter. That's it. You know what I mean? And that's my counterpunch on that. You guys feel free to let me know what you think. Please like, subscribe, and share. And until then, you guys been counterpunched. Peace.